Very well, I'll call this meeting to order. Please be advised that tonight's meeting is available for the public to attend virtually and is being streamed and recorded. Can I get a motion, please, to adopt the agenda? Moved by Councillor Penny, seconded by Councillor Roper. All those in favor? Carried. Mr. Hoffer and Mrs. DeSmit are here tonight. I'll let the councillors do introductions here. My name is Gary Foster. I'm the mayor of the Northern Rockies. Councillor Dolan is away. Councillor Roper, would you go next?
Yeah, Councillor John Roper, Northern Rockies Regional Municipality. Thanks for coming.
Councillor Andrews.
Hey, Councillor Andrews. Hi.
Councillor Gerwing.
Yeah, Councillor Lorraine Gerwing.
Councillor Todd Penny, Northern Rockies.
Councillor Danny Souls, Northern Rockies.
Very well. And our delegation tonight is Angela DeSmit and Mr. Michael Hoffer of Northern Health. So this evening, we're going to be discussing the formula for capital projects when external funding is received. Mr. Hoffer, did you want to go ahead with that?
Sure. So there was a few questions that we were able to discuss with Ryan and others, and there's been some significant email back and forth with your administration regarding those questions. Maybe if it pleases the chair, we could let you tackle which questions you want to ask, and I'll go through the answers with Angela's help as you ask them, so that I don't want to be kind of pushing the agenda. I'd rather go to the questions from you guys directly.
Certainly. I guess the most pressing questions that we have here is when the Canadian Medical Association came up with $100,000 towards the ultrasound machine, and the cost of the ultrasound machine was $140,000. Rather than splitting that $100,000 donation between Northern Health and the Northern Rockies, the entire Canadian Medical Association donation was used to reduce Northern Health's bill on that, and Northern Rockies still had a $40,000 bill. So can you explain that to us, Mr. Hoffer?
I can. Angela, do you want me to go first?
Yeah, Mike, just maybe in terms of the clarification and in terms of what we put through or submit for consideration by the regional hospital districts.
Yeah. So this is what we normally do when there's this ultrasound machine was turned into a emergency request, and then it happened after that emergency request became a reality that we had this alternate funding source. So this is what we normally do as a course of events, is we take that funding, that donated funding from a foundation or auxiliary or other body, and then we see how far we get in the emergency request. And those two things aligned, in a last minute way. And then what we do is we ask and make the request to the regional hospital district for the balance of funds. Normally, the most we would ever ask for is 40,000 or 40%. There was an error made about an extra $1,000. We've since corrected that extra $1,000, the $41,000 ask. But essentially, that's what we normally do in an emergency purchase is we ask the RHD in advance for that request. And it's up to the RHD, and we have 6 of them. You're the one in the Northeast of 2 that we make the request to, and then it goes from there. Until the funding request is approved by the RHD body that's applicable, what's at risk is Northern Health Capital Funds. So we make the request. We have to wait to hear your answer before we know how to finalize the sources of funds.
Any other questions, councillors, regarding this?
Yeah, I have a question.
Councillor Gerwing, go ahead.
So 2 points, but something that you just said kind of gave me pause. So when I was voting on the $41,000 approval, I was not under the impression that we had the option to not approve it and not lose our ultrasound machine. So I just want to confirm that what I heard you say is if the vote had been in the negative, then the ultrasound machine would have stayed and the $41,000 would have come out of capital?
So the RHD request is always a request. So internally within Northern Health, we have to make decisions about what happens from there. So I wouldn't want to say that it wouldn't have changed anything. It was, in this case, from a clinical perspective, I would say it was highly unlikely to change, but it is a request to the RHD. And the reason for that is your board has to vote on it and sign the bylaw and pay the bill. So it is a request until otherwise deemed by your board. And then what I have to do with Angela's help on the operational side and capital accounting is figure out how I solve the problem. In the case of this ultrasound device, the imaging quality was of the at the place where we felt it was urgent to replace it.
Yeah, so if the Northern Rockies Regional District had have decided not to fund it, then like Mike said, because it was clinical, we would have more than likely funded it, but something else on the list that had been put forward by the hospital to purchase that we had asked the Northern Rockies Regional District to co-fund, we may have then had to adjust that and say, okay, we can't fund that this year because now we don't have the $40,000 that we had requested, and we just need to push something else out depending on the current fiscal state of the Northern Health in terms of the minor and the major capital at that time.
Okay, may I go to my second point or does somebody else want to speak first?
Well, go ahead, Councillor Gerwing.
Okay, so my second point is I'm just unclear as to why the decision was made to not prorate the grant. So it's my understanding that in most cases on a capital event, Northern Health covers the 60% and the regional hospital district covers the 40%. That's my understanding. Is that accurate?
You're muted, Mr. Hoffer.
Yeah, sorry about that. My corporate capital working group gives me instructions on that. So in this case, we were given instructions to make the request of the regional hospital district. And we took this grant funding that was coming from the donating body as the 60%. But like Angela said, if we hadn't have got that grant from the other body, then we would be taking it from Northern Health, and we would probably be having to find a place where we couldn't spend it from. It's just that this grant came in place at an opportune time. So I think timing had a lot to do with it.
So, okay, I just want to confirm or reconfirm that this 60-40 split is not like, it's not a hard rule. This is not a formula that's standard, that it's not
No.
the accepted practice. It's all open to interpretation. Is that accurate?
There's an MOU that all 6 regional hospital districts work from with Northern Health. We have that meeting, those biannual meetings with the Northern Health Board and all 6 RHDs, and that MOU just talks about the request. 40% is not it's not laid out in the legislation. It's not laid out in the municipal act. It is a request past practice. I don't know if you guys would have had remembered this, but about 14 years ago, I had the auspicious occasion to work with a bunch of Ministry of Health people and select regional hospital districts and regional districts across the province and go to UBCM in a theater full of, I don't know how many thousand people, and explain the whole review of all the legislation and acts that were in place. Nowhere in those acts does it actually say 40%. That is a past practice issue. And I, for one, had hoped that during that review process so long ago that they would come up with something a little bit more definitive, but there was no, I guess there was no, there was thought to be no impetus at the time to put the additional detail into the act.
So it's all open to negotiation then?
Essentially, yep.
Yep, thank you.
Oh, yeah, except that we may not negotiate. It is a request. It's just been historic practice for I don't know how long that regional hospital districts, if possible, depending on what their tax base is and how they're doing, how big the ask is, what is the percentage, have in Northern Health have always given that 40% historically, and Northern Health Authority has matched it with the 60%, or like Mike said, if it's through another source, a foundation or a grant, then that's taken into consideration at that time.
Which is why we thought that that Northern Health would have prorated the grant. And so that would have been the 60-40. And that's, so it was accepted practice, like the funding request. And so that's why, or I'll just speak for myself, that's why at the time I felt that the grant should have been prorated 60-40 as well.
When you say prorated, so the grant comes from a foundation or a fundraising body in the form of a funding confirmation form. You're saying that the balance remaining, you would have thought that would have come, that the 40,000 remaining would go 60-40 Northern Health, the foundation.
Right, like envision, like, let's just say a local hospital foundation fundraised for a piece of equipment. And so that was all with local dollars, and donated that to Northern Health then to purchase a piece of equipment, and it's all local money. And then the regional health district has to come up with, you know, whatever is left. You know what I'm saying? It's all coming out of the same pot of money.
It is the past practice, and we have done it at every other RHD on a regular basis. It depends on the fundraising sources that are available to us, and as you can imagine, our capital funding is extremely limited, and we are experiencing significant challenges with how much capital funding we get. So when we get these other special funding sources, we try and make the most use of them as possible.
And we can relate to that not having, so like to share it only seems fair. Like co-op funding would be, we all share the cost. And only one reaping any financial benefit in here to the grant is Northern Health, putting our hospital district, spending the extra money when it could have been shared, and we could have all benefited from it.
Well, we all do benefit from it because we have an ultrasound machine to do medical images, and without it, we would be working with less than ideal equipment. So,
But with all
I
due
hear
respect,
what
we
you're
were
saying.
gonna buy it anyways. And the financial is what I'm talking about. The financial benefit is being solely reaped by Northern Health, and that's not fairness. And that's where I have the issue. Councillor Andrews.
Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Penny.
I don't have a question. I'll just add my name to that I have the same feeling of Councillor Gerwing and Councillor Andrews, that I would have just assumed that this would have been split. I guess in the future, we'll have to make sure that we check and see what other funding sources are out there before we make our decision.
Councillor Andrews.
Yeah, so how can we rectify this in the future? Because I don't think this is a deal that I would like to put my council's name to. We need to have this fixed.
You're muted, Mr. Hoffer.
I think when you receive a request for funding from the health authority, your board has to deliberate and vote. But like what Angela said, depending on what your resolution is, there's things that we will have to do or figure out as well. So it's a zero-sum game. There isn't a source of additional money. So if we spend it on this, we can't spend it on that. And I understand it's the same problem for the North Rockies. It is a zero-sum game.
Any other comments, councillors, on this point? Moving on then, the boiler project. What can you tell us about the boiler project in the hospital, Mr. Hoffer?
Okay, I'll start soft and work my way into the questions, I guess. So this is a carbon neutral capital program capital. It's special capital funding that comes to Northern Health via the carbon offsets that we pay to government. And so what happens is we get the money back in the form of special carbon neutral grants. Then what we do is we engineer projects using grant money from BC Hydro, Fortis, and others to investigate and engineer projects. What we try and do is we try and do the projects with the most payback first, and we try and do that. We try and spread the load across the 6 regional hospital districts with those carbon neutral capital program grants. Last year, this current fiscal year for Northern Health, because our fiscal year doesn't end until March, we got notice in the summertime that our carbon neutral grants were going to go up magnificently. So what that did was it allowed us to push some projects, to move them faster into the hopper to access carbon neutral capital money. So what we're doing is, and we've done a lot of work over the last 15 years that I've been working in this role, and of recent, in the last 3 years, my department has taken over direct supervision of facilities maintenance and energy and environmental sustainability across the entire health authority. So what we're doing is we've done several projects. We've done boiler piping, we've done increased efficiency boiler adjustments, and we've done some recommissioning in Port Nelson. But what we would like to do is go to a high efficiency model of the boiler system in that building. And there's about a 11-year payback on these boilers by going to the more energy efficient equipment. It does two things. It reduces our consumption of natural gas, which means there's more money available for Angela to operate in the health authority services. And the other thing it does is when we reduce our gas consumption, it reduces the carbon offsets I have to pay government. So, and I understand that the pickle for the North Rockies is that this came as a surprise project to you because it hasn't been coming on your schedules out in the outer years and moving up towards the current year because of that change in capital funding. But that's the plan, is to get the approval from your board for the project so that we can begin in the summer season moving to more efficient boilers. As you can imagine, Fort Nelson, you guys experience the temperature all year round. We're burning natural gas all year round in Fort Nelson. It's not like the Lower Mainland where they get to turn their boilers off for the most part in the summertime. So we think there's a significant payback there on the operational side and the natural gas efficiency side.
Any comments, councillors?
Yeah, I do.
Councillor Gerwing, go ahead.
So I'm just wondering the breakdown of the project. So the total value of the project, the total value of the grant that you're getting, and then the total value of the hospital district portion. And is that open to negotiations? And is that real negotiations or not?
So it's a 60-40 request. Northern Health gets CNCP dollars of 60%, and the 40% is the CNCP request. So it's $1 million to do the project, and there's a $400,000 request in the RHD schedule for the 2021 year.
So, go ahead, Councillor Gerwing.
Oh, thanks, Mayor. Sorry. So I don't think I'm totally understanding what you're saying. So I get the part that it's our responsibility for the $400,000. I want to know how much of the total project is Northern Health getting from a grant? Is it like
carbon neutral capital programs are grant dollars? 600,000 of grant of carbon neutral capital is going towards this project.
So then this project, you're using the same formula as this past ultrasound project, is that the grant that you're getting, that you're using 100% of that grant for the project, and you're not prorating it all with Northern Rockies. So it's the exact same thing as happening with this project.
Everything we ask on the RHD schedules is a 60-40 split. That's the starting point. That's been the past practice for 15 years.
Yeah, but you have to understand that when you're saying it's a 60-40 split, none of that 60% is coming out of your capital. You're getting a grant for that.
No, it's coming out of, that's our capital allocation. A capital grant to Northern Health is a capital allocation. I have rules about how I'm allowed to spend it, and I have to get government approval of what I'm allowed to spend it on. Carbon neutral capital program is unlike the rest of my capital plan, on a project by project basis, I have to get government approval to apply those dollars. And that's how we talk about it. It's probably maybe not a great terminology for this discussion, but that's how we talk about it in real terms with government when we get our capital plan approved.
So if you were,
there's a difference.
Can I just finish, Angela? So if you didn't get this carbon neutral grant, you would not be working on the boilers at the Fort Nelson General Hospital next year. Is that correct?
it would probably be further out in the out years because I wouldn't be able to afford it unless I was able to get these carbon neutral capital program funds, which are basically Northern Health money coming back to us on our funding letter. So basically what it goes back to what Angela was saying. If you make a decision, then we have to figure out what we do from there, depending on your decision. And what that would traditionally do is, if the funding isn't there, we either A, don't do the project, or B, we have to defer something else that will have to wait longer. So, and we have a rather large list of stuff that's waiting. It's just that this is thought to be a priority from the carbon neutrality perspective and the energy grant perspective. Go ahead, Angela.
Yeah, so two things. The use of the word grant is not interchangeable with what a foundation would receive. So like Mike says, the Ministry of Health provides Northern Health with an overall capital equipment annual grant that we then, based on our priority list, will determine, where's the threshold in terms of what we can purchase. And then from there, we look at opportunities in terms of funding from the regional hospital districts based on the hospital taxes they collect. We looked at other grant opportunities through the ministry, through other opportunities in terms of offsetting that, because at the end of the day, the list is longer than the funds that we receive. And so it would be us either being able to do the work sooner if we do get those additional dollars, or stretching it out, or not purchasing things on the list as quickly as we would like to. And that's a variety of things. That's, cardiac monitoring machines that are over $100,000, similar to what we put into Fort Nelson last year to help with the monitoring, those types of things. It is trying to balance to get the best value for the whatever funds that we have available to us to fund the priority needs and continue to keep our facilities upgraded, which is one of the things that Fort Nelson can be proud about. I know that when I took over 5 years ago as the coup, I was very surprised at, particularly because of the age of Fort Nelson Hospital, how good of a condition it is because of the constant upgrading and renewals and that due diligence, not to just say, oh, it's an old hospital up north, we won't paint it, we won't replace the roof, we won't replace the boilers, those types of things. And it's because of this trying to jump on to opportunities when there is additional funds becoming available that allow us to have, the best Northern Health facilities that we can for our local community.
Okay, I'm going to stop us there. Councillor Andrews, I'm afraid we're out of time here. We're going to have to be going into a regional council meeting in about 3 minutes' time. So I'm going to end it there. Thank you, Mr. Hoffer and Mr. Smith, for coming today, and appreciate your time. Can I get a motion, please, to adjourn the special council meeting? Moved by Councillor Soul, seconded by Councillor Penny. All those in favor, and we are adjourned. There'll be a brief 3-minute break.
Thank you.